I didn't know there's anything wrong with my eyes. I used to play football and cricket all day. I wasn't in school, I was outside playing cricket or football, just like everyone else. I was always the first to start complaining if it got dark. We all thought that was because I was a bit of a moaner. I didn't know that I could see less than everybody else, and neither did they. Why should they? So looking back, I'm aware that my night blindness was kicking in from early primary school days. It got worse, and tunnel vision started to creep in, and again, I used to play for my county at football up to under 15 level, and then by the time I left school, I could barely get in the school first team. And it's because my eyesight was coming in, and we noticed because when the ball was at my feet, I couldn't find it. If it was far away, I could. So that's when we twigged that there was something going on. My RP was diagnosed in 1982, which was the year I passed my driving test. It was the year I got engaged to be married. And it was the year when this chap said to me, I think you've got about 5 years eyesight left. That was quite a tough thing for me to take. It was quite tough for my wife Louise to take, and even more tough for my mother. Obviously, having a deaf child is tough enough, but to then discover that your child is also going to go deaf is pretty devastating news for her. So that was quite a tough year. And I remember he was fascinated because he's never seen RP before. And he was the way he broached the news to me, he said, you've got this fascinating condition. You can see all the fungi, the retinitis, all of the retina has been pigmented. It's a marvellous, marvellous thing. I said, well, I'm very happy for you, but what does it mean for me? And that's when he said, 5 years sight. He needed to learn how to talk to a patient, I think. So that was quite tough. The other tough moment for me was handing in my driving licence. And I say handing in because as far as the DVLC are concerned, I'm still a fine driver. They don't know I'm blind, there's no connection. So, it's down to you as an individual. Now, technically speaking, I should never have driven because you can't drive if you can't see at night. But I just never drove at night. You'll have to take my word for that. Please. The other big thing that people underestimate, and it's happening more and more, is changes of light. Because what it is with when your field gets smaller and all you see is the middle, all you're looking at is light or not light. So if I go outside, particularly on a day like today, the world is white for a couple of minutes. It takes a while. So you'll find me stepping outside, waiting by the door until I can start to see again. Same going in. I come in out of the sunshine. I walk into a building, everything's black. I know reception's in front of a door, so I know I can walk in a straight line for 5 yards and hopefully not hit anything. But as the receptionist this morning knows, I didn't recognise who she was. It turned out to be Cheryl. But nothing to do with you, Cheryl, it's the light. So adapting to changes in light is a tough thing. I've now lost over 97% of my vision. If you like, we all have 170 degrees, roughly, when we're born. And I'm down to the last 3. And I actually lost half of my sight over a 3-year period, about 5 or 6 years ago. But the good news for me, I suppose, is that it's been a gradual deterioration. So you adapt, and you adapt, and you keep going. So the other thing I suppose that's really starting to get tough for me now is things like I can't see colours very well. So I like bright colours. My favourite colour is poppy red, because it's the one colour I can see against anything else. People who wear bright red dresses, they tend to get chatted up by me at parties. Quality of vision is going as well. And for example, when I'm walking on uneven terrain, I can't see the ground I'm putting my feet on. So I'll stumble a lot, and it's because my feet are going down at unexpected angles. So it's little things like that that are getting harder. But I'm one of the lucky ones. I'm 60 now. I was told 35 years ago that I had less than 5 years sight. Since then, I've been married, got a great wife, 3 children, who've looked after me and helped me as well over the years. I've had a great career at Shell, something I've really enjoyed. Been very fortunate with. Seen the world, if you like. So there are so many people out there who have my condition, but even worse, who maybe don't have a family or a network of friends, or have not had a great career or a good job, or even a great home. So believe you me, I really do feel very fortunate. And I'm not being insincere at all. There are so many people out there that have had life so much tougher than all of us. This is a simulation of what's happened to my eyesight over the last 50 years. A really good demonstration here. If I can hand those out, Liz, please. This is roughly how I saw the world about 6 or 7 years ago. I reckon I probably see about half. Put them on, and then the person next to you, raise your hand and see if you can shake hands. Something simple like that. is actually not that easy with those sorts of goggles. But that's how I see the world. But bear in mind, you're going straight from normal vision to this. I've had 50, 60 years to get used to it. So what is RP? It's basically a pigmentation of the back of the retina. And the eye is mostly formed of rods, which see things in monochrome and work in low light. And that's why you see in black and white at night. The very centre of the eye, around the optic nerve, are your cones. They're a different chemical composition, and they see things in colour, but they only work in daylight. And what's happened to me is I lost all my rods about 5 or 6 years ago. Sounds pretty traumatic, Rod, doesn't it? Losing all your rods. Not something Deafblind UK have done yet, but we're trying. I'm now losing the granularity of my cone, so that's why my colour vision is deteriorating and my detailed vision is starting to deteriorate. But as I said, I've still got something. I'm very, very grateful for it. So that's RP. Hope that helps. Right, so a bit about life and work. So I mentioned a career, which has been great. I was a director of the Aberdeen North East Deaf Society for a while, which is very illuminating. I discovered that deaf people aren't just deaf people. You've got deaf people who sign, who think they're the deaf people, and the rest of us are hearing. And then you've got deaf people, the majority of us who are hard of hearing, who still use speech. So very interesting time working for them. And then for those that know, I've been chair of Deafblind Scotland since 2001. And I was working on the management committee when we were still part of Deafblind UK, funnily enough. So this is my second tenure at Deafblind UK. I used to work for you from 98 to 2001. And then I retired from Shell end of last year, previous year, and we moved to Derbyshire last year. So it was an absolute pleasure to get involved with Deafblind UK. And then I met Liz, and then that was it. My days were numbered, and I suddenly found myself waking up one morning and found I was chairman of Deafblind UK. So, you know, stay away from Liz, that's my advice to you. So I mentioned my wife and family, there's a picture of them at the bottom somewhere. My kids have grown up with a father whose sight is poor, and all three of my children have held my hand walking down high streets, walked me around bollards, curbs, traffic lights, the whole works. They've been great, they still are. My son, mind you, he stopped guiding me with his hands now. He doesn't even like me linking arms with him anymore. It's far too macho for that. So I just hold on to the sleeve, the back of his elbow, and then that's how he guides me around. So he's still happy to do it, he just doesn't want to be seen. And I also found that my male colleagues at work were the same. You know, they're quite happy to do it unobtrusively, if you like, whereas the lady didn't matter. So, as I said, I mentioned football and all the rest of it, and they all had to go. They all had to go. Yeah, so I still play guitar, I still sing, again, with a lot of enthusiasm and very little skill. I've joined a band called Crow's Feet in Derbyshire a few weeks ago, and I think that gives you an idea of the average age. I think together with the bass player, we're the two youngest. But it's great fun to be part of, and I never will stop. Although my kids tell me when they were growing up that they often used to shut the door of the room I was singing and playing in, but also just in case they shut their own bedroom door as well. So I'm not sure what that was trying to tell me, but there you go. So I had to give up football, had to give up badminton, later gave up tennis, and I had to give up cricket. They were all tough. So what do? You don't mourn what you can't do anymore. So I found other things I could do to keep fit. So I started running. And before long, I was running marathons. And in the 80s, I did the London Marathon 6 times. And the first 2 or 3 years I did it, I was able to run fairly safely. But as my sight started to get worse, I found I needed to develop strategies to keep safe. And one of them was to find a bright pair of shorts. So I find a runner in front of me, running my pace with a bright pair of shorts, and then follow them for a bit. And then if they slowed down, I find another pair. If they speeded up, I find another pair. And that's how I used to. So if the blue shorts moved to the right, I'd move to the right, because I'm guessing they were running around something. So that kept me safe for a while. Trouble was, I remember following this very attractive blonde lady runner, very long blonde hair, bright blue shorts, and then she started to slow down. So I thought, right, I need another runner. So I went past her to find someone else. And when I looked up very quickly, I saw this long, straggly beard. I was thoroughly depressed for about 3.5 miles. Which is probably politically incorrect, but never mind. So that was one of the strategies. But I also found in the mass starts, I'd run with my hands in front of me, so I wouldn't trip over the legs of other people. But that didn't work. So towards the end of the 80s and early 90s, I started running with a guide runner. And this is Nick Haywood, who's a geologist at Shell. Is the photo up there? I can't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Okay. Now Nick runs behind me. Actually, you'd think he'd be in front, but he's behind me. And what I'd basically be saying, he'll be talking to me because I can hear him a bit with my hearing aids on. Move over to the right, Bob. Move over to the left. Left. And he'll just grab me left side or right side. And also he'd help me if we were going under a bridge because, as I mentioned before, if we come out of sunlight into a bridge, I'm totally blind. So then he would hold me for just that bit. So Nick's made running and training possible all the way through. We did a lot of Edinburgh marathons together as well. So he's great and he really does help me. And it's meant that I could carry on running, which is important to me. So with running, we raised a bit of money for the charity I was working for at the time, Deafblind Scotland, which is good. But 2007, I was really conscious that 1,000 here, 1,000 there wasn't doing it. I wanted to do something that would really bring home to people and raise awareness of deafblindness. So I came up with the idea of cycling again. The last time I rode a bike, I was hit by a car. That wasn't, the issue was that I didn't see the car at all, whereas you guys might still have been hit by it, but you would have seen it. I was totally unaware that the car was coming at me. It came out of a side road and didn't look. So, never rode a bike. We've got a tandem. And my wife and I, there's some film on, Drina O'Malley, who you'll meet on the recommitment if you're here, she took some film of Louise and I's first ride on the tandem. And I was really excited, and Louise was absolutely terrified. It's a bit like driving a car with and without a caravan. I'm guessing it's the nearest analogy I can think of. So, we trained for a few months. Then, of course, in 2008, what did we do? We did Land's End to John O'Groats on a tandem. Makes sense. That's what you get tandem for, isn't it? So we spent 2 weeks having the most fantastic time, meeting great people, and we raised 35,000 quid for Deafblind Scotland doing that. And it's a great thing about deafblindness because you might notice on the front right handlebar, there's a wing mirror. My wife has got perfect eyesight, you'll be pleased to know, because she's on the front. But we have a wing mirror because she's deaf as well. Neither of us could hear one another. So we would lip read each other in the wing mirror. That's how we communicated the whole time, training and riding, and we still do the same way. So we did Land's End, John O'Groats, we did the Scottish Island. That's actually on Skye. Proves the point that you do get sunshine in the north of Scotland. Fantastic ride, that, the island. And then in 2013, we did all the Scottish cities when Perth had just been made a city after the 2012 celebrations. This year, for those that don't know, Shirley has asked me very nicely if I would do the 3 peaks. I very nicely said I would. I've regretted it ever since. But, so we start on the 18th at Ben Nevis, so we're going to climb the 3 highest peaks in Britain, 1 in each country, and cycle a tandem in between. And I've got 2 other cyclists who are going to help me. Jerry's going to help me on the first half, the English leg, and Fred's flying in from Norway to do the second half. And Louise is going to drive the support vehicle. She's going to take me up all the mountains, because she knows me better than anyone. And then the 2 guys are going to help me on the bike. So that's tandem cycling. And as I said, over the years, Louise and I have raised over £70,000 for Deafblind Scotland. So it's been a great way to promote the charity, to raise awareness of deafblindness, and raise a bit of funds as well. So other hobbies I have, photography. Very strange hobby for some of you who can't see, but actually I see the world as if I'm looking through a viewfinder. My wife actually thinks that I have an advantage as a photographer, because when I look at something, I just see a small bit. If I like it, I take a picture of it. If I don't like it, I don't. You guys, you see the whole vista, and you have to choose which bit you're going to photograph. I don't have that problem, so I suppose it makes for easier decision making. But anyway, it's a bit of a warped way of thinking, I think. So photography, swimming I love. It's a good way of keeping fit as well. What else have I... something I've just started, and I got a very nice reference from Liz. I've become a befriender in my local community. And talk about making assumptions. When I walked into the office the first time, having spoken to them on the phone, coming in with my little red and white cane, they said, "We're so sorry, we thought you wanted to be a befriender." I said, "But I do." "Oh, right." So they were making an assumption that a deaf-blind person was looking for a befriender, not to be one. Interesting. So, where are we? Work experience, right. So, I joined Shell in 1981, and I'd never used a telephone before. You can't have a professional career without the telephone. But the good news is they had amplified phones. So I learned to hear, but it took me a long time to get confident. Sure did. We also had an open plan office. There were 75 of us in one office. So having all that background hubbub was very distracting and made it difficult to concentrate. But I had another problem. I could lip read 75 private conversations anytime I wanted. I knew far more about everybody else at the office than they knew about me. The only problem is you don't get much work done. Sadly, those days have gone. I don't have the sight to be able to lip read at a distance anymore. But yeah, it made for some very interesting I think I gave Louis some very interesting news in the evenings, getting home from work. So open plan offices were tough. Group situations, I mentioned earlier about lip reading. You can't work out who's speaking, how can you lip read them? By the time you found out it's this person, you've missed half the sentence. So that sort of thing was very difficult. Meetings, in particular. Brainstorming session, absolute nightmare. Cafe or canteen is the worst place for me because there's so much background noise and people chipping in from all sides. So I find it very difficult to follow conversations. So quite often, especially at lunch, I just chill and have something to eat and just let the conversation wash over me. So that, yeah, not always easy. Not always easy. People often assume, if you have a bit of a hearing loss, that you're slow-witted. That's the first assumption. So you can say that again, please? Can say it more clearly? And that's a tough thing to get people over. But once they get to know you, that does happen. That does happen. I only told a close friend, I would never, ever, every interview I went to, I never told them I was deaf. I didn't want them thinking, hey, we've got a deaf kid coming. So I always went into the room, and after we said hello, then I would tell them. I was interviewed for a job in Shell when I was moving from economics into petroleum engineering. And the chap wanted me to interview me, which was quite unusual in those days, because in those days, line managers just swapped you from one team to another. I went in, I said hello, sat down, I said, how can I help? And he said, when can you start? A bit surprised, okay, so I started the following week. I later found out he'd seen a program about deaf people signing, and he didn't want a person signing in his team because he thought that would disrupt the team. Just felt the edge of the stage. It's higher. That's good. So, and this is a very intelligent bloke. So perceptions and assumptions, people make them all the time. So that was important. So I didn't, it was bad enough people know that I was deaf. I wasn't going to admit to my sight loss at all. No way. And actually, that kind of started when I got involved with Deafblind Scotland in the 90s. When I saw just how tough and how awful the circumstances were for many of the people that we support, made me realise just how lucky I was, and that I had a role to play here to help make the passage easier for those that are far worse off than I am. So then I started admitting to it and telling people about it. And over a period of time, started to get to a place like this where I can actually stand up and talk about it. So that was interesting. Technology helped a lot. So that was my setup at Shell. Little laptop, 2 very large monitors, 24 inches wide each. Very nice red mouse pointer, you can see it. I was the only person in the world that used to get the help desk going on the phone. I like your mouse pointer. Not many people conversations start like that. So I had a big red mouse pointer because I'd never find it. People used to go nuts because they see me on a spreadsheet going from cell here up to the right-hand corner so I could find my mouse again and then put it back down to exactly the next cell. That's because I could never find the mouse pointer. So the big red one helped. The problem I had was 2 24-inch screens are readable by me right in front of it, but they're readable by the rest of you from 50 yards away. So I had to be very careful with confidential information. I used to have to go into a quiet room. High visibility keyboard. So all these things help. They really did help. And of course, in extreme form, you've got voice activated software, JAWS and all the rest of it, and Zoom text, and all these things, as your sight deteriorates or even disappears altogether, will help you with technology. Office environments, very safe. Lots of flat surfaces. Stairs have handrails. I love handrails. Handrails tell me where the stairs are. You know, big thing in the oil industry, because particularly working offshore, it's very unsafe condition. So in the oil industry, we always tell people to hold a handrail. The other good thing that Shell did, and a lot of oil companies did, is that you walk on the left-hand side of corridors. That was a massive thing for me, because I stopped bumping into people every 5 minutes. I used to bump into bins and apologise to them, because I can't tell the difference between a bin and a person. But I'll tell you what, they've got some very strange look from people at the coffee machine. Very strange look. So that all helped. The biggest help really is people. It's your colleagues and your friends. You know, they all want to help. Everybody wants to help in a positive way. And over the years, I've had lifts to work. And then, of course, when I just started tandem riding, I started getting somebody on the front. So when I was getting lifts, I paid petrol money. When I was giving rides on the tandem, they could do it for free. So I was a very generous chap. So I cycled to work every day for 7 or 8 years, winter, hail or shine. Loved it. One of the things I miss most about working, actually, that cycle every morning and every night.